Futures now, old man.
What it do, RookieHQ? The boys at Future First Podcast back at it with the Rookie Market Value Show. All right, man, we are through the combine now. It was impressive. I mean, there was a lot of good show to be had here. A lot on the defensive side of the ball. The safeties really showed out with their speed and their 40s. I think you had a lot of edge rushers show out too. The tight ends. I think I seen something like in terms of how these guys were testing. It was the best class, just like position after position after position. I didn't really track that if that kept going through today with the wide receivers and the running backs, but I want to say the 5 or 6 groups that were leading up to today were all breaking records in terms of how they were testing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you had Safriq, right?
So freak.
Kenyan Kenyan Sadiq, who went out there and crushed it as kind of we all expected. Then you had the linebacker from Ohio State, Styles, right?
Yeah,
Sonny
Sonny.
Styles. Um, Go out there and break all the records, basically, like look like a freak just on the other side of the ball. So, it was pretty fun to watch. It's a little disappointing that pretty much all our top wide
Yeah.
receivers didn't do a ton. And Carnell Tate did, and he kind of just hurt himself. So maybe that's why you see that these guys don't necessarily always do it. Not that the 40 is some sort of magical thing, but it does matter to NFL teams, which is what I care about. I don't really care about my perception of this guy should run this way or that way. It's more like, how does the NFL going to take this, and does that push this guy 5 spots down? Does it do this? Does it do that? So apart from that, man, yeah, it was Jeremiah Love also was another standout. Did everything, running like Gibbs out there, but at a heavier body weight and all that. So uh, you saw some good things for some of the guys we're excited about going into rookie season.
Yeah, I did. And I want to talk about a couple of guys that I think did do a lot for, at least in terms of kind of the fantasy market and how we're going to be looking at them as dynasty players. And I think the first guy on that list is Eli Stowers. Analytically coming in, he probably was what, the tight end one analytically. He was operating as Vanderbilt's wide receiver one for the most part with Diego Pavia, and he tested really well also. So I think that's kind of why I say he's going to get pushed up here, because I think now he's going to be on notice for the NFL, and if he gets drafted fairly high, it's going to be wheels up for Eli Stowers. So I think before he was on people's radars, but I think now that he tested really well, it's just gonna kind of be a little bit higher. Like his RAS score was, I think, like is in the nines. I want to say it was like a 9.4 or something like that. In fact, the tight end class in general, I think there was like a dozen guys with a RAS of 9 or better. Kenyon Sadiq being one of them. Unfortunately, almost half that group, I want to say, are pass blockers. So nothing for us to get excited about in terms of number of tight end prospects that we would be looking to draft here. But then another guy today, Mike Washington Jr., running a sub 4.4 at the size he is incredibly scary, and he also just tested really well outside of that. So wheels up for Mike Washington Jr. We were hoping he was going to be a sleeper here, but I think he's going to get pushed up pretty cemently. Even if he gets like late day 2, early day 3 capital, I feel like if the landing spot is even half decent, he's going to get pushed up into that first round of the rookie draft class here, just because of how many question marks we're going to have after these, top 7, top 8 prospects are. Like, people are just going to take their shots on who they believe in. And I think Mike Washington Jr. is going to be one of those guys here. I'm interested to see what Player Profiler does with their rookie rankings in terms of these guys. But I guess before we talk about that, let's get into the rookie market segment if you're ready, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we are in the segment, and we were talking a little bit about Player Profiler's rookie rankings. Not anything has changed here from when we were looking at it last week. But I guess if anything, do you see anybody moving inside the top 10 here based on the combine here? Is there anyone that you want to move up over another person here, or move down based on what we have? I think, obviously we have Fernando Mendoza a little lower. We'd like to take a couple of these wide receivers at least over Fernando Mendoza, even in the super flex here. But do you think Kenyon Sadiq gets moved up given he tested so well, or do you think that's just still going to be draft capital dependent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a way with, a situation where he could get moved up. It's just going to all depend on how much do people value. I think because it was expected that it wasn't like, it didn't just come out of nowhere. I think it would maybe keep him where he's at. I mean, right now at 8, Elijah Surratt. I mean, I could see him jumping over Elijah Surratt for sure. I think the tight end that you talked about, Eli Stowers, could definitely be a big mover too. I mean, if it wasn't for Safriq, he would, definitely have been the most impressive guy. I mean, he had broke a couple records himself. I think it was the broad jump or the long jump, something. He broke a record, and he's analytical, at Vanderbilt looked very good. So I think he squarely cemented himself as the tight end too, with the other, what's his name, man? It just slipped my mind. Max Clare, right? It was another guy we were talking about. He didn't do much at the combine.
No.
I don't think he ran. So, I think he's definitely a guy that you could see jump in there, since you were talking about Stowers earlier. But otherwise, I don't think we saw anything too surprising from anybody, right? Like that would switch it up drastically. Unfortunately, we didn't really get any wow performances, or you never want to see something disappointing, but you didn't get much clarity, especially because since it's wide receiver heavy and a ton of the wide receivers didn't do all of the workouts. I know Boston, Denzel Boston had a pretty bad workout, so maybe that he could be a guy that slips with KCC. Casey Concepcion getting some hype. So if Denzel Boston fell below Casey Concepcion and Sadiq, I don't know if I would hate that. I think depending on your format and depending on what you think Sadiq can do in the NFL out of the gate, it wouldn't be something crazy to see that change.
Yeah, I'm interested, in what Player Profiler is going to do with these combine results, if it's going to affect the lifetime value of these players, even pre-draft. I imagine it's going to do something, especially for these tight ends, just because how they test matters so much, right? You got to imagine Eli Stowers gets pushed up here a little bit, maybe over these running backs who, we don't feel too great about in this class. It would make sense. And Denzel Boston being at 6, maybe now, like you said, he slips down, and Casey Concepcion kind of gets up there, or Elijah Surratt could potentially. It'll be interesting to kind of see what happens here, but obviously, the combine just ended today, and Player Profiler isn't out here just waiting on that to kind of change their rankings here. So we'll have to wait and see on how those things get shaken out. We'll also keep a pulse on the rest of the market through Fantasy Calc and KTC, and see what the public is thinking about these guys, because if we start to see these guys climb in value, that means only good thing for our rookie picks, especially those late round rookie picks or middle to late round. I think before, consensus was like anything after the 106 was very suppressed in value, and it seems Player Profiler would agree with that. There's a tear drop after the 106, And then again, there's a tier drop after the 108 to the 109. But maybe we see some of these values kind of get pushed up a little bit and bring a little bit more value into those late round picks there. Like, I think there's an argument to be said where if you can buy these picks cheaply right now, I think there's an argument to go get them, because as the draft happens, we've already seen a ton of hype for these guys in the combine. I think that's only going to build in the NFL draft. And that these 109, 110 picks, not that you want to make them, but that you want to flip them to someone else who is excited about the class, could bring a quick little value flip for you. So I think there's something to be said there for that. All right, man. Do you want to jump into kind of looking at some trades and what we think would be good value for these guys here going forward? I think we wanted to look at Fernando Mendoza, who, for the sake of this argument, we're going to be calling the 104. The last time we did this, we looked at Makai Lemon as the 102, and it didn't seem really different to say we could look at Carnell Tate as the 103, or we could look at Jordan Tyson as the 103 or 104, just to kind of give us a little bit of different flavor here. We're going to call Fernando Mendoza the 104 and approach these trades and see if we're feeling good about them, or how you would approach these things a little differently. Are you ready to dig into this, man?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this first one at the top is pretty interesting here. We have a 2 quarterback 10 by 10, so 10 team, which is very important here. Full PPR, half point tight end premium. On one side, you have Nico Collins, Kyron Williams, and the 104, which we'll call Fernando Mendoza, being offered up for Bijan Robinson, Keon Coleman, and a 2027 third. I think obviously Bijan Robinson is doing majority of the weight pulling on the right side there. And in a 10 team, the elite assets matter that much more. Nico Collins and Kyron Williams are probably hitting your lineup in that 10 team. And, you know, the 104, a quarterback, matters a little bit less in a 10 team. There's more of them to go around. So how are you thinking about this trade here, man?
Yeah, I thought when you're going to read the right side, you were just going to stop up after Bijan Robinson, because, I mean, the other two pieces, I get 2027, you know, everybody's eyes light up, but a round 3 pick is not doing much. I think it's a fair trade. Like you said, it's if there's 20 quarterbacks that are, you know, important in a super flex league of 10 teams, is Mendoza like even in those top 20 right out of the gate? Maybe maybe he's maybe. So, you know, I think if it's Mendoza, I think that's why like this tier break of like the 104, 105, 106 is pretty interesting, because as soon as you change like the 104 to be, I don't know, Makai Lemon or Tate, for example, right? Let's say Mendoza went earlier, you feel a lot better about the left side. If it's Mendoza, you know, I think it makes it a fair trade. I think that's a fair's worth value for Bijan Robinson. You're talking about 3+ firsts probably, like in terms of total value with Nico Collins and Kyron Williams. So I think it's a fair trade. It makes it fair. If it's one of the wide receivers that we like Tate or Lemon, I'm smashing the left side. But Bijan is awesome, and you know, I think this is the type of offers that are smart. Like, this is not giving up an arm and a leg and your firstborn to get a premier asset like Bijan Robinson. It's just giving like a good, solid, fair offer, right? So I don't hate it. I would prefer the Bijan side. If we're looking at the 104 is Mendoza, though, I think I still just kind of lean that, just because I don't think Mendoza makes that much of a difference in this sort of super flex league.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and especially because Nico Collins and Kyron Williams are kind of volatile assets, I want to say. You know, even in terms of production, like Kyron's production last year dipped a little bit as Blake Corum got a little bit more involved. And obviously Nico Collins has trouble staying healthy, and his quarterback has trouble playing the position. So,
hey man, I want to remind you, you said he was the next Mahomes 2 years ago. I'm never gonna let you forget
still
that.
believe in CJ Stroud. Okay, I have to recognize it for what it is. I blame it on the offensive
you out
line.
of a startup taking him. What was it, 102 or 103 or
102.
something? Yeah. What people are doing with Drake May right now. So yeah.
Here we go again, right? All right, cool. Yeah, so that makes sense. I think we're both leaning Bajan there. This is an interesting one in terms of just flipping your 104 for future capital. Let's get, I mean, let me read it out here, right? On one side, it's again a two quarterback, 12 by 10 full PPR, half point tight end premium. On one side, you have a 2027 1 and 2027 2 being traded for a 2027 3 and the 104, who is Fernando Mendoza. Where does this 2027 first need to project for you to feel okay about this trade? Like, where's the lowest that you would accept on that 2027 one? Is it a mid, or can it be a late and that feels good enough to get out of the 104 here if you're looking at Fernando Mendoza? Give me your
No,
thoughts on that.
I'm not dipping out of the top four picks in a draft to go to the back end of the next draft, no matter how good. And I think this is the type of deals that, like, if you're projecting to be a strong team and there's a team that's like everybody else. I mean, I think this is a great way to use your 2027 first, especially in this moment where
Mm,
it feels like everybody's freaking out that this is going to be the greatest draft class ever. And then in 6 months, everybody's like, damn, like the guy Smith from Ohio State's kind of like not it. The quarterbacks, three of them have redeclared, and now all of a
he got
sudden we're
Arthur
like,
Smithed.
yeah, who the heck knows what could happen. Like the college game is more volatile than the NFL game with NIL and just the variance in terms of how many um, players
Hmm.
change, right, with the portal now and quarterbacks leaving, all this stuff. So I would need to stay fairly close to the 104, like and that's I feel like from like the 105 to like the 108 are the hardest picks to ever figure out which one you're getting. Like if you have the 108 compared to the 105, you feel pretty differently most drafts. So I would need to know for sure that I'm getting like a top 5 or top 6 pick. Like if the league is not so clear cut of like these are the 6 playoff teams and these are the 6 non-playoff teams and this is whose pick I'm getting, I'm probably not doing this deal. And if vice versa, if like maybe I'm a contender or I know that I'm going to be a strong team and my pick's going to be like the 110, let me get that 104 right now. I mean, giving up the second round pick it is where I think the value even kind of
Yeah.
evens that out, right? So I think it may ends up being a fair trade. But if you can squeeze, not the second rounder and just throw a first for a first and trade up, a back end first for a early first this season, just because the rebuilding team wants the 2027 pick,
Hmm.
I'm into that all day.
Yeah, man, I've been actually trying to make these moves in a 14 team league that I'm in. I actually sent my 2027, well, I sent it as an offer, my 2027 first, and I was trying to get back the 109 and the 114 in this year's draft for my 2027 first. He came back offering the 109 straight up for my 2027 first. And obviously, I'm a contender in that league. I won in 2025. I'm not meaning to flex, but I'm gonna flex. I won. You know what I mean? Like, uh, and so I feel good about like trading away my first now when people may not think my team. Maybe they think I got lucky, right? And they think that my team isn't that good and that I'm gonna tail off in 2027. They think that's gonna be better than it is. So I'm trying to move that pick now when it still has that allure of the 2027 pick and we're not in the season and they have more information to kind of place on that pick. So I like what you're saying is, using those 2027 picks to kind of move around here. And in this case, like if we're talking about this is Fernando Mendoza in a 12 by 10, if I'm a contender and I need a quarterback, sure. Like that's the perfect situation where I'm going to send my late first and a round two to go get those kind of players here. But yeah, I'm with you. Like I'd say that 2027 at the latest needs to be a mid-round pick for me, which is so hard to project. Like those mid-round picks are usually teams that could contend, that may not contend, so it's really hard to project as that. So okay, that one feels good about. Let's try to get one where there's a quarterback involved here. Here we go. How about this one? It's a 2 Superflex 12 by 11 full PPR with a 0.75 tight end premium. On one side, you have AJ Brown, Zach Charbonnet, Fernando Mendoza, and the 112. Let's call like Elijah Surratt going for James Burrow and Joe or
James Burrow and Joe
James
Cook. Yep.
James Burrow and Joe Cook. That's those guys. They're really taking off this year. Joe Burrow and James Cook on the other side for AJ Brown, Charbonnet, the 104 and 112. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm getting a free James Cook. I don't know. Like I
You
would
mean
send Joe
Joe Cook?
Burrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Joe.
I feel like I'm getting a free Joe Cook out here. No, it feels that way. I mean, to me, Joe Burrow for the 104, 112, and AJ Brown, and a guy with a blown ACL whose favorite coach left this season. Like I don't understand. To me, at least, even if it's Mendoza that you're putting there at the 104, I think Joe Burrow is worth whatever you just traded away, and then you're just getting a top,
Hmm.
what was it, 5 running back this past season who projects to be a solid RB1 for the next 2 to 3 years. Give me that all day. I mean, it's also a deep league, so I can maybe understand that you're getting supposedly 3 starters in your 2 picks in AJ Brown for next season, right? It's a 12 by start 11. So I could see that maybe being the thought, but I think you're just giving up way too much unless, you just love Mendoza or you love what you think is going to be there at the 112. I mean, doing this type of deal this early is like, dang, like you
Calling
really have to
shot.
be, yeah, you're
Yeah.
calling your shot. And I think you're for no necessary, like I feel like could easily be done the day of draft day. Like you don't need to do this draft, right now, like this trade. So I'm squarely on the Joe Cook and James Burrow side.
Yeah, man, those guys are real good. I'm with you on that one. I don't think I realized how heavy that was on one side until we started diving into it. Let's see if we can find another one here. Um, there's another Bijan Robinson one and 227 firsts and the Fernando Mendoza for him.
Sheesh.
This one feels like it's selling low. Let's see if we can get another quarterback in here. Not a lot of quarterbacks getting moved. I don't think people are counting on that 104 as Fernando Mendoza necessarily. How about this one? For the 104, Fernando Mendoza or Saquon Barkley straight up in Superflex 12 by 11, half PPR, half point tight end premium.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting. I think if Mendoza is a solid NFL quarterback, in a year or two from now, when Barkley's probably on the decline, or maybe not putting up any sort of running back one numbers, this is the trade you come back to, and you're like, dang, that was a fleecing. Right now, I think it feels pretty even. And if I needed a quarterback, or if I'm set at quarterback and I wanted to go get a running back for a straight one pick, I think this is decent enough of a player. I think Saquon for a contender still has juice for 2 to 3 more seasons if he stays in Philly. So I don't hate it on either side, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I feel like as a 104, maybe they bounced in a bad season last year, or they're exiting a rebuild here, and they're set at everywhere except running back. And I feel like Saquon is due for a bounce back season here, so that makes a ton of sense. And maybe Saquon on that team was coming off of a contending team and is now wanting to move into some more secure assets here with a little bit of youth. I think that makes a ton of sense. I feel like it's probably, I don't know what market value is on Saquon right now, but it feels a little light, to be honest, in terms of value. But maybe I just hold Saquon higher in higher regards than the market does. All right, how about this next one? Here's a quarterback trade where it's definitely interesting. It still feels a little heavy on the the sure thing side of Bijan Robinson, and again a 10 by 10 super flex full PPR half point tight end premium. You're looking at Jeremiah Love, Fernando Mendoza. Let's call it Carnell Tate for Trevor Lawrence, Bijan Robinson, and the 2026 203.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a known quantity side. I mean, Bijan Robinson, you hope Jeremiah Love is Bijan Robinson, like, right? Isn't you? I don't think
Right.
you, on the highest projection, you'd be projecting Jeremiah Love to be more than Bijan Robinson. Like, you'd have to be then like Hall of Famer CMC like level, and I don't think even the most optimistic Jeremiah Love fans are projecting that. You just, if you get Jeremiah Love to be Bijan Robinson, you're ecstatic. So then I guess you're buying back a couple of years, but you have the known quantity of knowing what Bijan is. and then Mendoza versus Trevor Lawrence and the 103 and the 203. I think it's still light on the known quantity side, but it's not like crazy with that 103, right? Like Tate, it's pretty much like you said, Tate and Mendoza for Trevor Lawrence. I think I could get there. I think I could see that makes sense. It depends what you believe in Trevor Lawrence. Like it's been 5 years or however many years, and this last run into the playoffs was the first time that you saw Trevor Lawrence kind of playing at his elite level that people were thinking when he was coming out of college. So do you believe that's going to continue? Is that what you're projecting going forward? Because if you are, then you're getting the better deal with the known assets. If you think Trevor Lawrence regresses somewhat to the mean of a mid QB1 to like high end QB2 in the NFL and in a super flex league, then I think the youth side gains a lot more traction.
Yeah. The more I look at this trade, like the more I'm starting to make sense of it, right? Because if you look at the 104 is Fernando Mendoza, and we're making that same argument of Trevor Lawrence regressing. Like, what's the difference between Fernando Mendoza and Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, they're probably both going to hover right around that QB 20, QB 18, right? I think that's probably pretty fair if we think Trevor Lawrence was what he was last year was an outlier compared to what he's been. And then you're looking at Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate for Bijan Robinson and the 203. And that feels like a little bit better for me, especially if you project Jeremiah Love going to the Chiefs. I'm going to put you on feet to the fire here. Jeremiah Love on the Chiefs or Bijan Robinson on the Falcons, straight up. That's a tough one.
I think it's a tough one because that feels like the place where Jeremiah Love could hit the ceiling where he is Bijan Robinson, right? I think that's the best case scenario. So in that situation, especially if maybe I'm a rebuilder or I'm not a contender, I'll take buying back like 2 or 3 years of youth. I'm not sure like what the age difference is between them coming out of school. So yeah, man. I mean, that's perfect case scenario, and the Falcons are a little scary, man. I don't like. I love Bijan, and I think he's going to get his. And Algier leaving can only be a plus, but that offense could regress significantly. Like I don't know if Penix is going to be there, and how is it going to run when Cousins isn't there? I don't know. I think it's definitely scary. Bijan feels like he's bulletproof, but you never know.
Yeah, man, I agree. There are so many Bijan Robinsons for the 104s. This is kind of wild how many we've seen here. All right, let's see if we can find another one here.
Yeah, let's do one more.
Yeah, let's finish off on this one here. Superflex 12 by 12, so quite a deep league here. Full PPR, 1 full point tight end premium. That's quite the premium to place here. We have Malik Neighbors going for Fernando Mendoza and the 105, who I think, at this point, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that 104 might be Sadiq in this format, right? So
yeah.
Do you think that's a good enough haul to get back from Malik Neighbors?
Man, I don't know. I was so high on Malik Neighbors. I liked him more than MHJ coming out of school, but man, that knee and the cane and all that stuff, like I don't know if I'm psyching myself out. We also barely saw him did we see him at all with Jackson Dart? No, right?
I think we did. Dart. I think we saw like one game.
Okay.
I think it might have been the game he got hurt.
Okay. So
I'm gonna look that up.
I wanna stick with Malik Neighbors here, but in a deep league like that with the extra tight end premium, if Sadiq turns out to be who we think he is, he could be worth Malik Neighbors, right? Like if Sadiq all of a sudden is a Trey McBride or one of these guys, right? Like in a whole one extra point tight end premium, like those type of guys, like a Brock Bowers. Can you trade Brock Bowers for Malik Neighbors in this league straight up? In this league context with a full PPR and a full point on top of it? You don't think you could get it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's out of the range. But
a starting quarterback in Mendoza would cover the difference, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like you have to believe this would be in a situation where you believe that Sadiq is going to turn out to be like a top 5 tight end or top 8 tight end in the league. Like, if you don't believe that, then I think it's still Malik Neighbors, because even with the extra full point tight end like premium, I don't think that it's worth that much if Sadiq is just like average.
Yeah.
So I that's where I would be with that.
So it looks like we had Jackson Dart starting as early as week 4. And that's when, that's when Malik got hurt. So they played a couple games together.
Okay.
So yeah, we did see them together, and I think it was good, obviously, but it wasn't enough to make us have like that known aspect of between them. But I mean, Dart looked good, man. He was passing well. I'm just worried about the offensive scheme change and how that's going to translate over to this year. Hopefully only good things, man. All right, man. We're running past 30 minutes here, so let's hit the outro. That was fun. I like these episodes, man. These are fun when we get to talk about these trades and just kind of keep it light. But, man, that combine was great. I'm looking forward now to free agency and seeing how these rookie values change as the offseason continues here. So hopefully you guys stay plugged in. Like the video, comment, do it all. We love you guys.
Yep, thanks to RookieHQ and Player Profiler for having us on here. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, Future First on YouTube. Thank you as always. We appreciate the love. And Future First is...
Not quite out,
Just kidding.
But we're almost there.
All right, put the glasses on.
Put the glasses on. Get the neuralizer.
Pretend it's in heaven.
Peace.